All right, what's going on, y'all? So today I'm going to tell you why, after 5 years of being on TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, I'm deciding to stop. So 5 years ago, I went on TRT, and then during that time, I made it the goal to become a pro bodybuilder, which I did. And I did so using anabolic steroids and then, of course, being on TRT for the last 5 years. Not one time in the last 5 years did I stop, besides a PCT attempt off that I did several months ago. That obviously now I'm reattempting now. So during my bodybuilding career, I got up to 260 pounds at my heaviest. I talked about many of the health implications and mental and spiritual implications that came about during that time. Why a year and a half ago, I decided to retire from pro bodybuilding, hang up the trunks for the last time. And then for the last year and a half, I've been just on TRT. During that time, I've even lowered my dose down to almost about as low as you can lower it without actually, needing to come off, because you're not even really replacing natural or near natural levels anyway. So today I'm going to tell you why I'm actually deciding to step away from testosterone replacement therapy, and why I'm also seeing other men, many other men right now are wanting to do the same. We've got this massive TRT craze right now. All these TRT clinics are popping up, and it's being heavily marketed to men of all age groups that you need to be on testosterone replacement therapy. Your life will be so much better if you're on testosterone replacement therapy. If you go back just a decade ago, TRT was only really heavily marketed to men in their 50s plus, a way to regain your libido, regain your energy, feel like a man in their 20s again. And then before that, it was truly only prescribed by doctors to a very, very, very subset of the population that were truly hypogonadal. They had a testicular issue, or they had a pituitary issue to where they wouldn't produce enough testosterone. They had truly subclinical levels of testosterone, to where testosterone replacement therapy was the equivalent of like a diabetic needing insulin. But this is a very, very, very subset of the population. And now all these TRT clinics are making it super accessible to get TRT, and they're heavily, heavily marketing. I have guys come to me in their early 20s now that rather than spending basically any bit of their life off of testosterone replacement therapy, they're immediately jumping on. And then if you ever decide to come off in the future, it makes things a lot harder, because you've shut down your natural system, and you'll have to recover it. So, right now, me coming off after 5 years, I've already done a PCT attempt. I did it a few months ago, and it was extremely rough. So I'm doing things very differently now, more scientific, a much more patient route to make sure I do this in the healthiest and best way possible. But the reality is, guys, once you go ahead and you start testosterone replacement therapy, it's not something that's, super easy to come off. You have to basically rebuild your system after being, shut down. And the longer you're on, and then of course, if you use anabolic steroids, it makes it even harder. So this is something that should be a very, very weighed out, heavy decision for anybody deciding to go on. So today I'm going to tell you why I'm coming off. So, during the whole time of me bodybuilding, and even prior to bodybuilding, if I'm being really, really real with myself, that had to have come from, some deep underlying self-esteem lack I feel like I must have had. I built up all of this confidence and pride around my physique and my performance. And while it's been great in many regards, I've helped many, many people out there, many men, many women too, with their own bodybuilding, with their own fitness, health, nutrition. There's been this pride I've had around my physique and my performance. And if I didn't perform at such a high degree, or look, a certain way, who was I as a person? Am I really valued as a person? I found my identity kind of in my physique and performance. And you guys know I'm an Orthodox Christian. My whole aim is to find my identity in Christ, and throughout my life, fall more and more and more in love with Christ. And what was happening, and what I've discovered over time is, I thought it was originally steroids, but I've actually found that testosterone and who I am on testosterone, the identity I have in testosterone, has become an idol in my life. It's somewhere where I haven't truly given myself to trusting God and trusting who I am, who He's made me without testosterone. So that's one of the big reasons here. The other is that, while testosterone, makes you feel, kind of beast mode, you're always on, you're very driven, confident. It does change personality over time. I've seen this happen with so many men that over time, they can feel great in this honeymoon phase of going on TRT. Many men come to me in the first year to 2 years of being on TRT, feel fantastic. But the amount of men I'm dealing with that have been on for 4 or 5 plus years and want to get off, it's been many men lately I've found and that have been coming to me that have been wanting to get off after a long time use, because that honeymoon phase of feeling great, I don't know whether it's because it's a synthetic hormone and it doesn't act exactly the same way, even though it's a bioidentical hormone in your body as your natural test, and with your natural test levels, they'll fluctuate. There's something with it that over time, it seems that some bodies just reject, and personalities change over time. I've seen that happen with, shortening of fuse. I've seen that with, a inflation of ego. And at the end of the day, guys, everyone's trying to kind of use testosterone. Not everybody. I mean, a lot of people there are some people that are subclinical levels of testosterone that it's like medicine to them. But most people I see getting on are using it as a Band-Aid for something in their life, whether that's a self-esteem issue, whether they haven't fixed something physically. The reality is, yes, we have all these environmental factors now in the 21st century that, our grandfathers didn't have 50 years ago that had higher test levels. But these are things that, rather than people just fixing naturally and then getting their natural test levels up, which I've seen with so many of my natural clients, we optimize things and their natural levels can come up quite significantly. Men don't want to lose the body fat first. Men don't want to optimize their sleep, optimize their diet, optimize their training. They don't want to kind of fix all these areas in their life which would support natural testosterone levels, so they go immediately to a synthetic version in the needle. And so the reality is if you're putting a Band-Aid on something, whether that's a soul thing like self-esteem, something with your mindset, or whether that's a physical thing that you're not optimizing, you're putting a Band-Aid on the root issue, and that root issue is still going to be underlying there. If it's a self-esteem issue, really only you're now going to go from having low self-esteem to now maybe even having an inflated ego with testosterone, and it's just a different side of the same coin. On the physical, if you don't have your natural testosterone levels optimized, and now you're just injecting yourself, the same things that were causing that root issue, the same environmental factor, whatever, could still be there in their life and could still be affecting you internally. You've just now optimized your hormones. And so, it's kind of one of those things that if you're not fixing the root issue before, it's only going to still manifest itself in other ways. For me, that was a pride and ego thing. I have this pride and identity around my physique, and it's not a way, back when I was competing in pro bodybuilding, it was very much of, look at me. For the last year and a half, it's been more so of, I have to perform and look a certain way for my business. I have a coaching and a training business, so a lot of that is how I look and perform. I'm the kind of billboard for my business. But it's been this kind of self-imposed trap and prison I've put on myself, that I have to be this guy on testosterone replacement therapy, or at least that's the fear I've got in my head, to have my business perform a certain way. And so there's still this pride and identity wrapped into the person I am on testosterone. With that, guys, I've had my, over the last year and a half, I've had my blood work looking pretty solid on testosterone replacement therapy. There's a couple little points that, I think me coming off and being natural will get even better. This isn't really as much of an internal thing. I have an internal health thing, but I have talked to you many times about, with steroids. Steroids did age me. I'm 32 years old, and many people think I look a good bit older now. Steroids aged the externals of my face. And a lot of times external age can be reflective of internal age as well. So who's not to say that it didn't age me a bit internally? And there have been, it's a very rare amount of guys that have gone on testosterone replacement therapy and decided to get off. And there's even a rare, smaller amount of guys that have been on, anabolic steroids and TRT and decided to get off and done it successfully and stayed off. The ones that have, one, their external age, they reversed. B, they all report they had better relationships. And C, the few that are spiritually based said that their spiritual life got much, much, much deeper. And that's my whole biggest aim here is, me as an Orthodox Christian, my whole sole focus in life is gaining more of a love for Christ throughout my life. And with that, I have more of a trust and identity in testosterone replacement therapy, or who I am on testosterone replacement therapy, than what I know I should. This is all, this is a pride thing. And I'm not judging anybody who's on testosterone replacement therapy here. I'm not even saying if it's right or wrong. I'm saying for me and where I'm at in my life, this is something that I need to attempt. So I'm going to be taking you along the process of me going through this process of trying to regain myself naturally, where I'm at physically with it, mentally, spiritually, and then of course talking about, many other topics when it comes to self-mastery. But I'll be giving you all kind of the full breakdown. I'm off testosterone now, so the process has started. So I'll be kind of keeping y'all posted with blood work and all of that as we come up in the future. But let me know what you guys want to see down in the comments below. This is kind of just my whole kind of why I'm coming off. A lot of people are confused on why I'd want to come off testosterone. But I'm not unique here. I see this with several guys now that after several years of being on, they know deep down that they're a different person on testosterone than how they'd be off, and not necessarily in a better way. It can change you over time. And if you have a root issue that you haven't fixed before going on, that root issue is going to manifest itself in different ways. And I'm trying to deepen my spiritual life, and hopefully this does this. And if I get down the line enough, I've given it much time to try to recover naturally, and I just physically can't because I've damaged the pituitary, whatever, because of my past steroid use, then that's also going to be something I have to live with, and knowing that I need this now as medicine. But as of right now, I don't know I need it, and so I'm choosing to just use something to appease my ego and my pride, and it's not something I want to do. So let me know what you guys want to see on this channel. If you could, please go ahead and smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already. All glory to God. God bless y'all, and have a great rest of your day.